Hello everyone, and welcome back to another figure review. Today, we're taking a look at the S.H.Figuarts Dragon Ball Z Yamcha, Earth's foremost fighter. This iteration of Yamcha is based off of his appearances during the Android Saga and the Cell Sagas respectively. With this release, Yamcha here should be the last of the Z Warriors we need to recreate that group shot of all the main characters standing together. Taking a look at the packaging, we have Yamcha in a fighting pose with some manga style paneling in the background, all complemented nicely with a rich orange color. The side of the box continues that paneling, with the back giving us a more in-depth overview of what to expect from the figure. If I'm not mistaken, this is the first time Tamashii Nations has used promotional pictures in a one-to-one method on the box. And what I mean by that is, usually they take out the black background in favor of white, but here we can still see that the Inferno is raging in the background, just like when they first teased Yamcha. But if I am wrong, I'm sure the astute collector can let me know down in the comments below. Here's a quick look at the other side of the box. And look at the top. And the bottom to round off the packaging. For the paint detail on Yamcha here, the orange is a bit muted compared to the Goku figures we're used to. The symbols for King Kai and the Turtle Skull are done nicely. The torso has a deeper V cut compared to the Sand Saga release of Yamcha, with the skin tone being painted on. His slippers are blue instead of black this time around, and the belt is a slightly darker color. The print work for the faces are done nicely, but something about them just feels off to me for some reason. The hair is painted, and under certain lighting you can tell compared to the plastic molding of the hair sculpt. Other than that, the only shading I can find on Yamcha is the lower half of his gi, and maybe just a smidge around the sleeves. The scars on Yamcha's face are not printed on, and instead they are built into each face sculpt and have a very fine line of color that fills them in to make them stand out. As I'm sure some have pointed out with the original release of Yamcha, he does share a similarity with other figures that share the 2.0 Goku mold, and that would be his arms. They're so close, in fact, that the pegs are even the same size for the hands if you want to give Yamcha an instant transmission hand from Goku to control that extra large spirit ball, which the first one also didn't come with. But that's neither here nor there. Aside from the lack of shading and the faces feeling a tad off, I think he's executed well for what we get in hand. I think if he had just gotten a little more shading, maybe in the chest, it'd really make him pop. Alright, getting into the articulation here for Yamcha, as we can see he's on a 2.0 mold that is very similar to that of Goku's, but with some slight retooling to him to set him apart. Let's take a closer look at him. Starting with the head and working our way down, Yamcha is going to be on a ball hinge that allows him to look up about that far. And he's going to be able to bury that chin into his chest about that far. As you can see, we're starting to get some separation between the face sculpt and the head, so we'll just need to be mindful of that range and just squeeze those two pieces back together. The head will rotate a full 360 if you desire, and we're going to have some nice side-to-side movement, assisted nicely by the neck peg that we have for Yamcha. I will note that this is a vast improvement over the original Sand Saga Yamcha, as I can't get my Yamcha to do this right here. Now, it may be stiff just because it's a new figure, and I just took it out of the box for the review, but I will note that I'm not going to force it given what that figure is going for right now, so you can do it at your own discretion. I'm not going to. But here, I love it. It's silky smooth, and it's nice. For the torso, just to make sure my extension's all the way down, Yamcha can lean forward about like so, and he can lean back about like that. We do have an extension that I happen to have forced down that adds roughly 1/8 of an inch, if that. It's not that much of a big difference. It does already make the already lanky looking figure just slightly taller, but it really doesn't add any extra range to leaning forward or back. Side-to-side movement is there, but it's very, very limited. And the rotation, forget about it. I wouldn't force it. For the arms, they are on a ball socket system that do rotate a full 360. The sleeves here are pegged into the backside of the shoulder that allow Yamcha to bring out his arms, like so, when you get the sleeves out of the way. For the butterfly joints, we'll go ahead and just keep the sleeves down. This is it. This is how far you can get Yamcha to bring his arms in when you're trying to get him to either do the Kamehameha or the Spirit Ball. This should have been improved upon from the original release, but they did not do that. And they're also not color matched to the gi, but it doesn't matter because you're not going to be able to see them anyways. The biceps do swivel a full 360. They are double jointed elbows. And we have a ball hinge for wrists that peg in to a ball and socket. For the lower half of the torso, the waist section, we do have a bit of an ab crunch that allows Yamcha to get just a little bit more range leaning forward and leaning back. The belt is on a swivel and it does move out of the way, so we can sit here and articulate the legs forward all the way. The waist does rotate a full 360, as we can see here. And for the kicking forward and back, as I was illustrating earlier, it looks about like this. Greater than 180 degrees, it's very solid. But the cost of that is the 45-degree splits. We do have an upper thigh swivel, double jointed knees for greater than 90 degrees, and the biggest offender, aside from the shoulders, are the ankles on Yamcha. Side-to-side movement is very limited because of the cuffs that are built into the gi. This is something that should have been improved upon from the original release. It is the same system they used on the 1.0 or the Sand Saga Yamcha, and they didn't do anything about it, except give him some shiny blue suede shoes. So when it comes to doing the splits and trying to get Yamcha to do some fighting poses, he's not going to be able to be flat-footed on the ground, and you're going to have some issues getting him to stay in those positions. Unlike Goku, who has excellent ankle rockers for being a 2.0 figure, he's going to have a much easier time getting those splits done. So, final verdict, it'll do what you need to do. It's just going to be a pain getting him to pose. My sanity has been at the cost of these ankles for this review, and I'm actually going to demonstrate for you real quick what those ankles look like compared to Goku. So let's get Yamcha out of the way and take a closer look at the ankles for Goku. As we can see, Goku's ankles can come in a lot further. Leaning out is about the same, but just being able to get those ankles to pivot more just adds to the ability of Goku getting into some more dynamic poses when compared to Yamcha. And like I said about Yamcha being kind of a lanky figure, we can see that he kind of towers over Goku. It's crazy. Honestly, didn't think Yamcha was taller than Goku, but, well, there we are. Let's move on to some accessories, shall we? For the accessories, Yamcha comes with 4 faceplates in total, one of which you can't really use unless you have Dr. Gero. So make that 3. 3 extra sets of hands for a total of 4 pairs, and a 2-piece accessory to recreate the scene of Yamcha opening his heart to darkness. And that's it. Taking a look at the faceplates, we have the neutral face, a teeth-gritting face, a shouting face, and a face for Yamcha's getting his hand over his mouth. Again, I don't know what it is with these faces. They just feel a tad off to me. And it may sound like a broken record by the end of the video, but I guess that could also depend on the source material we're looking at. But to be honest with you, just recently, I've been watching the Android and Cell Saga, and yeah, they don't look anything like it. I don't know. Anywho, for the hands, we have the 2 fists that come attached, 2 open palm hands, 2 Kamehameha hands, and 2 martial art style hands. When using the accessories for Dr. Gero, you will need to attach the clear plastic pieces across Yamcha's chest and back respectively. They are a bit snug when putting them on, so you will need to be careful when doing so. I had the best luck moving the floating shoulder pieces out of the way, and then sliding the piece up where the chest and back is narrower. Once attached, the back piece is snug and the front piece just wants to rest on the sculpted wrinkles in Yamcha's gi. Next, we'll need to remove Dr. Gero's right arm and attach it to the front piece. Once together, it will look like this, and I gotta say, it looks dope. When removing the arm piece that plugs into Dr. Gero, you will need to be extra careful not to hold the clear piece down for leverage. For whatever reason, Tamashii Nations did not add but maybe just a drop of glue, and it does not take much to separate it. Luckily, with a bit of super glue, it's an easy fix, and is key to only peg in a certain way, so you cannot mess up how it goes back together. Lastly, the faceplate. For this, we'll need to swap out Yamcha's faceplate and then remove Dr. Gero's left hand. Once we've done that, they peg into one another without issue. I will note, you will need a support stand for Yamcha. I don't know why the scaling is so off with the androids, but Yamcha is a freak of nature. Even when I collapse the torso all the way, he still towers over Dr. Gero, which doesn't seem right. And because of the height discrepancy, you cannot have both accessories on at the same time without it looking like Dr. Gero has broken Yamcha's neck off to one side. You will honestly need to do some sneaky photography when it comes to posing him around, but in the display, forget it. Oh, and you can also use these accessories with the original Yamcha if you desire. So let's talk about the pain point for me when it comes to these accessories. For $65 US, we essentially get a figure that only has 2 extra faceplates and the exact same hands that a general release of Goku comes with, minus the instant transmission hands. And you must have another figure that originally went for $70 US to make use of the pieces we get here. And to top it off, that $70 comes with more stuff than we get here with Yamcha. Don't get me wrong, I love the fact we can recreate what is arguably one of the most shocking and gruesome scenes in the franchise, but if a person doesn't have Dr. Gero, they're getting cheated. It should have at least come with something else to offset the fact that someone might not have Dr. Gero. I don't care if it's an extra hand to hold an antidote accessory or an extra faceplate of Yamcha smirking. It just needs something to quantify the fact that this is a premium Bandai release. For the comparisons, here's Yamcha next to the Super Saiyan Blue Goku head sculpt on the Super Saiyan Full Power Goku body, Dr. Gero or Android 20, the Super Saiyan 2 Gohan event exclusive, and the original Yamcha. So for my closing thoughts on this figure, I'm honestly disappointed by what all comes packaged for the price we had to pay. And I feel especially bad for those who had to pay the market price on sites because they missed the pre-order window on this figure. As I mentioned in the accessory section of the review, there should have been more that came with the figure to warrant the need to go through Premium Bandai, and not just FOMO, or the fear of missing out. We also had to wait a couple years for this figure to be released after it was teased back in 2020 alongside the Android Saga TN, and what would eventually become the Super Saiyan 2 Goku event exclusive. I imagine the figure was held up in developmental HFIL as they were trying to get Dr. Gero and the accessories finalized, but again, I just think that there should have been something just a little extra. For those of you on the fence with this figure, you can easily pass if you don't have Dr. Gero or you don't care for Yamcha. But if you're a completionist like me, he's kind of a must, just begrudgingly though. I do prefer this look from the Android Saga a little more than the Saiyan Saga, and I like his character as a whole. One of my favorite episodes from the entire run of Dragon Ball is Toei's love letter to Yamcha in the 70th episode of Super. Despite it being a baseball filler episode, I can't remember the last time I laughed so hard at a Dragon Ball episode, especially when they made fun of Yamcha getting Yamcha'd. I do like the simplistic design of Yamcha this time around, and it's complemented well with the smooth joints. But again, he just leaves me wanting a little more. That said, if you must buy it, get it now before it goes up in price like the original release, which is currently still fetching outrageous prices on the aftermarket. This is the only other iteration of Yamcha that we have, so get it while you can. And that brings us to the end of the review. If you haven't already, kindly hit the like button and subscribe. It helps me out and keeps the channel growing. Plus, I've got more content, and I'd also love to know what you think of the figure. Is Yamcha one of your favorite characters? Do you think the price range is just about right, or is it too shallow for what we get? And remember, these are just my opinions. It's your money, and you should spend it how you want to. All that matters is that you're happy with your purchase at the end of the day. This has been Elite Reviews, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace. Peace.